Hello there, very good evening. This is the news at 9, coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst Center here in Colombo. I'm Joel Outsko.
And I'm Nicola D'Souza. We start off with a look at tonight's headlines.
Numerous villages affected by the Uma Oya project. Petroleum trade unions call for a system to impose fines on companies supplying substandard fuel. Former Transport Director of the Presidential Secretariat remanded. We must be fully alert to ensure that pledges are fulfilled. A statement from the Director General of the Telecommunications Regulatory Commission.
4 seasons of protection with H&B Assurance Life Policies.
On to your top story this evening. The Iranian company that is engaged in the construction of the Uma Oya project says that they will arrive at a decision on the future of the project based on the report of a team from the Peradeniya University who are scheduled to conduct an investigation. A representative of the Iranian company, Farab, speaking to Newsfirst, stated that a senior officer from the parent company in Iran will also arrive in Sri Lanka next week to look into the construction activities. The representative added that the government is yet to pay for 3 invoices issued under the project, adding that there are any problems with the project, they can be resolved.
In order to ascertain the actual needs of the public living in hamlets in the vicinity of the Uma Oya project, Newsfirst correspondent Chandana Karuparachi toured the area today. What we witnessed was that the wells in these areas had completely dried up. While some of the wells have completely dried up, some other wells were found with water unfit for consumption.
Our wells did not receive water starting from the 9th of January. This is a well that never dries up.
Because our wells are located at the same level as our paddy fields, the water never decreases. The water started decreasing from the 5th of January. The water decreased on the 28th of January. We had a little water for 2 days and then it completely dried up. Newsfirst also witnessed the manner in which the community living in Boralanda, Veragama, Makuluella, Egodagama and Dikarawa, who utilize well water for their day-to-day activities, are now faced with a situation where they have to wait long hours for the arrival of buses in order to utilize water. Water has not only dried up in wells. Several families that live in this area, especially those who engage in agricultural activities as a means of income, are now left with a continually depleting income. This is due to the inability to supply water for agricultural purposes.
We usually have enough water for our farmlands for at least 2 days, but now we do not have even water for a day. We farmers will face a situation where we would not even be able to farm in the future because of the Uma Oya project.
During our tour in the vicinity of the Uma Oya project, we were also able to witness yet another shortcoming as a result of the project, and this was the occurrence of fissures and sinkholes. This house, the school and this temple clearly proves the existence of such shortcomings. This wall, which has cracks on it, signifies the income that we used to construct this house. We repaired this house with loans so that we can live here for another 20 to 30 years. They told us to leave the house when they saw our house was falling apart. We do not have anywhere else to go. This is the only house that we have. What is the connection between such occurrences and the Uma Oya project? If this project sped up activities, what would be the situation of people living in hamlets nearby? Shouldn't attention be paid to the needs of the public?
Northwestern Province Chief Minister Dayasiri Jayasekara commented on the Colombo Port City project at a meeting today.
The construction of a new city was initiated by Mahinda Rajapaksa. The work commenced. Ranil Wickremesinghe went everywhere saying that this will result in the flooding of Wellawatta. Then he said that Wattala too will be flooded by seawater. They said that the environment will be destroyed. They said that they will stop this. And after 3 weeks, they are saying that they will go ahead with it again. This is all done out of jealousy.
Now in a developing story, petroleum industry trade unions have highlighted the need for a system to impose fines on companies that supply substandard fuel. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation recently took steps to turn back a ship which had brought 30,000 tons of substandard diesel. Meanwhile, Palitharange Bandara, the new Minister of State for Power and Energy, has vowed to take strict measures against corrupt transactions.
A ship carrying 30,000 metric tons of diesel and 10,000 metric tons of petrol made port on the 13th of this month. According to the CPC, the fuel had been supplied by the Singapore-based Unipec Corporation. The CPC accepted the cargo of petrol as it was of an unacceptable standard, but rejected the 30,000 tons of diesel.
We stated very clearly that under the previous regime, they granted extendable contracts to several companies without even calling tenders, where the commission went to the pockets of the rulers. This has happened again. This is the document.
When Newsfirst made inquiries, the Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Energy, Suren Bhattagoda, said the company in question had agreed to provide a replacement stock of fuel. He added that the stock of diesel had been rejected owing to differences in the colour of the fuel.
The former minister introduced a new agenda. It is below standard, we will not accept it. And then he tells the company to please send a replacement stock. We were against this back then. This is because it affects the uninterrupted distribution of fuel across the country. This problematic situation is graver when you have a refinery. It is good that the company has been banned, but compensation must be sought. There are conditions in the agreement. When they sign an agreement, they must meet our needs in terms of the type of fuel, the amount, the date of delivery, and the parameters.
If, as the Rajapaksa regime did in the past, we accepted this fuel and distributed it across the country, vehicles around the country would have broken down as a result of pumping low-quality diesel. We appointed the officials and the chairman of the CPC and informed them that if a mistake occurs, the relevant officials must take responsibility. We will not pardon them or rescue them. We took a direct decision and told Unipec Singapore that we would accept the 10,000 tons of petrol and that they should take back the diesel. We asked them to take it, and if they wish, to get their inspectors to inspect it. We said it is not up to our standard. We would not accept it. We have not incurred a loss through this. We will not even pay 5 cents for this.
A serious situation has arisen. The refinery will be closed from the 5th of next month to the 10th of April due to maintenance. So the 35% of diesel, petrol, kerosene and aviation fuel produced by the refinery will stop. So there must be fuel in storage to ensure an uninterrupted supply. It is in this time frame that this stock of diesel has failed to meet the parameters. The same happened in 2010 when substandard fuel was brought in while the refinery was closed.
We have 100,000 metric tons of diesel in storage. On the 18th and 19th, 2 ships carrying fuel that we ordered will arrive in Sri Lanka. There's plenty of fuel. There will be no shortage. We will not allow a shortage to arise either. And neither will we sell substandard fuel to the people.
Patali Champika Ranawaka, the Minister of Power and Energy, has emphasized to Indian authorities that the MOU reached with the Indian Oil Corporation or IOC needs to be reconsidered. The minister had discussed the matter when he called on the Indian Minister of State for Petroleum and Natural Gas, Dharmendra Pradhan, yesterday.
Minister Champika Ranawaka, who is accompanying the President on his official visit to India, called on Indian Minister of State for Petroleum and Natural Gas, Dharmendra Pradhan, and discussed avenues to strengthen relations between the two countries with relation to the industry.
Attention was drawn to the fuel tanks that were constructed in Trincomalee. In 2003, the complex was vested with the IOC. However, we are yet to see any development regarding it. In 2013, the Indians had drawn up a proposal and presented it to the Sri Lankan government, resulting in a discussion. We discussed on the same and hope to continue it in the future because the complex has been devoured by the nature and been destroyed.
According to Indian media reports, Indian Minister of State for Petroleum and Natural Gas, Dharmendra Pradhan, had called on the Baroness Sandip Verma, the UK's Minister of Energy and Climate Change, on the same day he met Minister Champika Ranawaka. Baroness Sandip Verma and Indian Minister Shri Dharmendra Pradhan met to discuss bilateral cooperation in the oil and gas sector between India and the United Kingdom. Indian media reports that the Baroness had mentioned that some UK companies have already invested in India and that the UK government was exploring how the Indian market could grow and be more competitive, thus encouraging other UK companies to invest in India.
News from the President's Diary. President Maithripala Sirisena, who is on a 4-day official visit to India, visited Bodh Gaya today. He is due to arrive in the island tomorrow.
Today is a special day for the President's visit to India. The President today visited the Bodh Gaya premises. The President was welcomed to the premises by its chief incumbent and other Thegurs. Subsequently, the President engaged in religious observances at the Sri Mahabodhi. After the religious observances, the President toured the temple premises. In addition, the Mahabodhi Society had organized a ceremony for the President. Tomorrow will be the President's final day in India. President will preside over a special ceremony at the Tirupati Kovil tomorrow morning. The President will leave for the country tomorrow evening.
Indian President Pranab Mukherjee held a banquet at the Rashtrapati Bhavan last night for President Maithripala Sirisena. The President's media division also noted that the President met with India's Congress party leaders Sonia Gandhi and former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh yesterday. The President also met with Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar and Finance Minister Arun Jaitley. The President also visited the Indian National Museum to pay homage to sacred Kapilavastu relics. A panel discussion on the proposed constitutional amendments covering the concerns of the minority communities was held in Colombo yesterday. The panel discussion was organized by the Muslim Council of Sri Lanka.
This constitution, we need a new constitution for this country. The tinkering with this constitution is not going to work. We have agreed, though, that must happen in a proper democratic space, with full discussion, without rushing through parliament or through any other process. And we are willing to have that long drawn out discussion in the next parliament. It is then we say that the next parliament will convert itself into a constituent assembly as well for 1 to 2 years perhaps, and give the country a new constitution after full discussion, not just by parliament but by everybody concerned.
First and foremost, draw attention to the need for us to be conscious of certain pledges. There is a need to recognize that there is a huge change in the country that was ushered in from the time the new manifestos were released, the 100-day program were released, common people's agenda were identified, and the people of this country voted for change on the 8th of January this year. And I think we have to be fully alert to ensure that those pledges are fulfilled. What we need is give us our reasonable rights. That is enough for us.
The present government is working on 2 constitutional amendments. Actually, we are working on 1 constitutional amendment and the other to follow. As you may have seen in the election manifesto, the government proposes to have first put in place a constitutional amendment, the 19th Amendment of the Constitution, which will change the form of government from the presidential system to a parliamentary form of government, essentially. But I think it is important that we pass the constitutional amendment on electoral reform and have a clause to say, we don't know when the next election will be, have a clause to say that if an election is called before the delimitation commission's report is out, you use the present system.
Hindu devotees the world over celebrate Mahashivratri Day today, giving priority to religious observances.
According to Hindu legend, Mahasivaratri marks the day on which Lord Shiva proved that he was the strongest god among all other gods. Hindu beliefs speak of a dispute which arose between Lord Vishnu and Lord Brahma over who the strongest god was. And it was during this moment that Lord Shiva had intervened and produced a great beam of light which abridged the expanse between the ground and the sky. Lord Shiva had spoken to the two gods and told them that whoever is capable of finding the two corners of the beam of light will be the strongest god. Thereby, Lord Vishnu transformed into a swine and began digging in search of one corner of the beam of light, while Lord Brahma transformed into a swan and flew off into the sky in search of the other corner. However, both gods were unable to find the corners and they accepted Lord Shiva as the most powerful god. Hindu devotees the world over celebrate this day in remembrance of Lord Shiva and this historic occasion. Devotees engage in religious observances from tonight till tomorrow morning to celebrate this occasion.
The CID recorded statements today from 21 persons involved in campaigning for MP Duminda Silva. SSP Ajit Rohana, the police media spokesperson, says that 3 teams are conducting investigations based on the statements that have been recorded.
The MP has made various financial donations within his electorate at various instances. We have obtained information on this. It is not possible to speed up this investigation any further. These are financial transactions. Statements must be recorded and re-examined. The manner in which the money was spent must be inquired into. We are investigating where the money came from.
26 tractors suspected to have been used to smuggle heroin into the country were discovered in Sinharamulla, Kalaniya yesterday based on information gleaned from the detained drug baron Vele Sudha. The police media spokesperson noted that the building in question had been rented by a British national who had established a business there.
දැන් ඔහු එවලා තියෙන මද්ද්‍රව්‍ය ප්‍රමාණය කිලෝ 1000කට ආසන්නයි 2012 අවුරුද්දේ ඉඳලා මේ ට්‍රැක්ටර් වල මේ ආකාරයට
He has brought in close to 1000 kilos of narcotics since 2012 in these tractors. Our attention has also been drawn to the British national who had rented this storage facility. He has been brought to Sri Lanka for the drug racket and the premises had been rented under his name. 2 Pakistani nationals had been employed here. All 3 of them have left the country. We are taking steps to secure a red notice for their arrest.
පාකිස්තානු ජාතිකයින් දෙදෙනෙක් මේ බ්‍රිතාන්‍ය ජාතිකයා සහ පාකිස්තානු ජාතිකයින් දෙදෙනා රටින් පිටව ගොස් තිබුණා. ඔවුන්ට විරුද්ධව රතු නිවේදන අපි ලබා ගැනීමට කටයුතු කරමින් පවතිනවා.
Newsfirst made inquiries from the Customs Department regarding the importation of tractors to the country in this way. They say that about 2 tractors can be placed in a single container. Customs also pointed out that while vehicles are scanned, any drugs that may be hidden within would not be caught in the inspection. Customs pointed out that more thorough investigations are carried out only if there is a complaint or suspicion.
දැන් මේ ට්‍රැක්ටර් වරාය හරහා ලැබුණු ආකාරය පිළිබඳවත් අපි විමර්ශනය කරනවා. දැන් වරාය හරහා
We are also investigating how the tractors came in through the port. When it comes through the port, it is brought in by a shipping company and is inspected by customs. It is only after this that this individual with tractors. Parts associated with the gearbox had been removed and replaced with the heroin. The Narcotics Bureau is conducting investigations regarding the drug racket and also into how the tractors were brought down.
විමර්ශනයක් කරනවා වගේම අනෙක් පැත්තෙන් මේ ට්‍රැක්ටර් ලැබුණු ආකාරය පිළිබඳවත් අපි මද්‍රව්‍යනාශක කාර්යාංශයේ විමර්ශනයක් සිදු කරනවා.
ඒක තුළ පේන ලොකු වැරද්දක් අතර අනාවරණය වෙනවා. ඒක තමයි මේවා තුළ ඒ ආකාරයට කුඩු
This unveils a major lapse in the country, and that is that drugs and even weapons can be smuggled into the country in this manner. So there must be a weakness with the scanning equipment. This weakness shows that the environment has been prepared for Sri Lanka to become a hub for drug smuggling. While the machinery is faulty, no matter what plans are implemented, such things could happen again. Just as they must inquire into corruption and fraud and mete out punishment to those responsible, we also ask the government what steps they will take to prevent such things from happening in the future.
On to one of our headline-making stories this evening. The former Director of Transport at the Presidential Secretariat, Kirti Samarasinghe Dissanayake, who was produced before court today, has been placed under remand custody till tomorrow. Dissanayake was arrested yesterday over allegations of vehicles reported missing from the Secretariat.
The director was unable to provide a statement on 3 vehicles out of 748 under the Presidential Secretariat, especially a hybrid Jeep Benz and a motorbike. Reports reveal that these have vanished. The gross value of these vehicles is usually around 5 million rupees. This allowed the Criminal Investigations Department to arrest the former Director of Transport at the Presidential Secretariat on charges of criminal violation of trust based on property under his custody.
ජනාධිපති ලේකම් කාර්යාලයේ හිටපු ප්‍රවාහන අධ්‍යක්ෂකවරයා අත්අඩංගුවට ගනු ලැබුවා ඊයේ හවස.
Several vehicles claimed to be those owned by the Presidential Secretariat were discovered from several locations in the recent past. Vehicles parked on either side of the road leading to the Presidential Palace in Fort in Pitakote and land in Borella were revealed to the media. The police media spokesman SSP Ajit Rohana stated that 44 vehicles under the Presidential Secretariat are still unaccounted for.
අපරාධ පරීක්ෂණ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුව පරීක්ෂණ
The Criminal Investigations Department launched investigations at the Motor Traffic Department to ascertain the number of vehicles attached to the Presidential Secretariat. It was then revealed that 670 vehicles have been registered under the Presidential Secretariat. I previously said that there were 748 vehicles, and now, according to records maintained by the Motor Traffic Department, there are only 670. 78 vehicles. Such a gap could be due to the handing over of those vehicles registered under several other establishments to the Presidential Secretariat. Those vehicles were registered under other ministries. That is why the count was indicated as 748. Another 44 vehicles are still unaccounted for. It is clearly indicated in investigations carried out by the CID that there had been no maintenance of vouchers nor an inventory record on vehicles under the Presidential Secretariat.
The United Nations Human Rights Council has agreed to temporarily hold off its consideration of a long-awaited report into alleged rights violations during the conflict in Sri Lanka for 6 months until September 2015. Explaining his difficult decision, Saeed Rad Al Hussein, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, said in a press release issued by his office that the deferral of the report was for the time only and guaranteed that the report would be published by September.
Zaid Rad Al Hussein, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, said, quote, "There should be no misunderstanding. I give my personal, absolute and unshakable commitment that the report will be published by September," unquote. He said that there are good arguments for sticking to the original timetable, and there are also strong arguments for deferring the report's consideration a bit longer, given the changing context in Sri Lanka and the possibility that important new information may emerge which will strengthen the report.
He says it's strictly one time, 6 months. We are bringing this in September. In the meantime, he has reason to believe that because it's a more relaxed atmosphere in the country, it will be possible to secure more information and present a tougher report in September. So he expects the doors to be wide open. He also says that the government has promised that a strong domestic judicial mechanism will be in place within the 6 months. In other words, the Sri Lanka government itself will investigate these war crimes allegations within the 6-month period. So there's a win-win scenario for the UN High Commissioner's office and a lose-lose scenario for Sri Lanka. It's not just Sri Lanka buying time for 6 months, it's the High Commissioner's office getting 6 months, buying 6 months for itself in order to get more evidence against us.
Meanwhile, last month, Jayantha Dhanapala, the senior advisor on foreign affairs to the President, met the High Commissioner for Human Rights. Characterizing his visit as an exploratory visit, Dhanapala briefed them on the policies of President Maithripala Sirisena and his government, and in that context sought a constructive engagement with the High Commissioner and the Human Rights Council in terms of the manifesto and the 100 days program of the new government. It was also in this backdrop that the Minister of Foreign Affairs Mangala Samaraweera on Friday the 13th of February met with the UN Secretary-General and pressed the government's desire to delay the release of the UN report on alleged war crimes during his country's civil war. During his visit, he also urged the international community to be patient and give Sri Lanka time and space while pledging the government's commitment to democracy and the protection of human rights.
The government of Sri Lanka has options that it has not exercised. And the new government can credibly tell Prince Zayed that it will implement the recommendations of the Lessons Learned Commission and nothing more. The LLRC report identifies a few specific incidents and urges an independent local investigation. Now that is what the government of Sri Lanka, especially the foreign minister, must tell High Commissioner Zayed. This is what we are going to do. This was in our LLRC report. We are not going beyond that. And if there is an attempt to bring this report or a stronger and fuller version of this report in 6 months, the government of Sri Lanka must very clearly say that now that we have rectified our relationship with India, we shall secure once again, as we did in 2009, the support of the region, the continent, the third world, and we shall resist any imposition of any such report.
Under the previous regime, the entire judicial system was suppressed by the regime. In Chilao, Ratupasula and Valuvaria, they opened fire on people protesting for just reasons. In Vaunia and Valikada, prisoners were murdered. Thereby, the previous regime had created a very dangerous situation in our country with regard to democracy and human rights. It is this situation that chiefly prompted the United Nations to conduct an investigation into our country with regard to the violation of democracy and human rights. The postponement of this report presents an opportunity to initiate reforms in our country to ensure democracy and human rights. But as a country, the current regime has a responsibility to ensure democracy and human rights. The UN Human Rights Commission must withdraw this report completely, and at the same time, the present regime must investigate violations of human rights and democracy in our country and take steps to ensure that such violations do not occur again. The door that has been opened now presents an opportune moment to strengthen democracy and human rights in our country. The government must not let go of that opportunity for any reason.
Meanwhile, a demonstration was held in front of the Valikada prison complex demanding a swift investigation into the deaths of inmates at the prison during the 2012 prison riot. The protests had been organized by a group calling themselves the People's Movement Against the Murder of Valikada Prisoners.
A group including the families of prisoners who were killed in the 2012 riot and civil activists gathered opposite the prison complex today. The protesters' key demand was that criminal cases should be filed, testimonies heard, and the responsible parties should be punished. The father and son were both killed and we are orphans today. How can prisoners be killed without orders coming from above? You, Gotabe and Mahinda, are covering this up, but you cannot shut the eyes of God.
The government has appointed a committee, but we are not happy about the activity of this company. We ask that this not be limited to a mere committee, that the criminal law be enforced and that the murderers and criminals be arrested. We call on the leaders of this government once again not to forget the promises that were made. Was it Gotabaya? Was it someone else who gave the orders? Whom were they trying to rescue through this? Reveal all of this. It has been 3 weeks since we appointed the committee. The committee has commenced its work. Sometimes when certain people feel that something is going to happen, they come and demonstrate. That way they can get some respect as the people who protested opposite Valikada.
Deputy Minister of Justice Sujiva Senasinghe visited the scene of the demonstration.
If there are any problems faced by the inmates or the families of inmates, submit it to us directly. I promise at this occasion that we will conduct a 100% transparent investigation. In truth, even while they were thinking about this, we had taken steps 3 days after assuming office at the ministry.
A tense situation arose today when former Minister Arumugam Thondaman distributed goods to a number of people at the Norwood grounds.
The goods were those taken into police custody following a court order when they were to be distributed to the public during the presidential elections. However, when members of the Thondaman Foundation attempted to distribute the goods today, police intervened following an order given by the Hatton magistrate Damayanti Fernando. Thondaman, however, did not heed this order and proceeded to distribute the goods, claiming that he had prior permission from the court to do so. A group of police officers, including the Hatton ASP, arrived at the location where we distributed the goods. They ordered us to stop the distribution of goods immediately. I informed them that I already had leave by court to do so. The police were under the impression that we still could not distribute the goods as investigations were being carried out. I told the police that I only heed the orders from court and not orders given by others, and proceeded to distribute the goods. I told them that they can arrest me if they wish. Since he proceeded to distribute the goods without heeding police orders, the police obstructed the main exit, preventing the people who did accept the goods from leaving the grounds. A tense situation arose as a result. We were able to witness the people trying to exit the grounds from various places.
Well, that's a wrap of your primetime news for tonight.
Well, before wrapping up, here's reminding you that you could keep abreast of these stories and much more by simply logging on to our website www.newsfirst.lk. For the news team, I'm Joel Outscourt.
And I'm Nicola D'Souza. Take care and good night.